Good evening and Shabbat Shalom, one and all. Glad to have you here in the sanctuary, and a special welcome, Bruchim Habayim, and Shabbat Shalom to all of you watching at home. I'd say make yourself at home, but you're already at home. I'm Rabbi Matt Berger, joined as always on the bima with our soloist, Allison Rosoff, and down at the piano, our accompanist, Joy Katzen-Guthrie. And just like we have the last few weeks, we will be having 4 special readings from a wonderful prayer book called Mishkan Halev, which means dwelling place or sanctuary of the heart. It's part of the Mishkan series. The one we regularly pray out of is Mishkan Tefillah, dwelling place of prayer, and Mishkan HaNefesh is for the high holidays. We're going to begin our service with a psalm. On page 14, you'll find the words to Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, that light is sown for the righteous and radiance for the good, for the upright. An arrangement by Rick Recht, and we'll now continue with Debbie Friedman's Light These Lights.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless
Holy One, we ask for your blessing that peace will come to the independent nation of Ukraine. We ask you now, God, to guard all of the soldiers, all of the families whose lives have been uprooted. May their souls, their spirits, their bodies, their home, and their land once again be protected and safe. We say, Baruch atah Adonai shomea tefillah, which means, blessed are you, God, who hears our prayers for peace. Our first special reading, taken from Mishkan HaLev, is Elul, an island in the year. Elul is the 12th month of the Hebrew calendar. Feel free to join me. You'll find the words right on the screen. Before we slip too quickly into the season of the soul, let there be a Sabbath of Sabbaths for the heart. Before the music of creation's majesty, let there be silent praise of existence. Before the feast of sanctified words, let there be a poetry of solitude. Before we enter the palaces of prayer, let us find within ourselves a place of calm. Before we revel in the wondrous and sublime, let there be an honest inward gaze. Before the rites and ceremonies of awe, let there be quieter days, an island of attentiveness. We'll continue with a traditional Shabbos table song about the Melachim, the messengers that we find in our lives. You'll find the words of Shalom Aleichem right on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Marhuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidkem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We'll continue now with our segue to Shema and its blessings, the words of the half-or Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah B'yamad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei kol beit Yisrael Bagala bagala uvizman kariv v'yemaru amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach lehalam u'lamei hamaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yitabach v'yipa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal Shmei dekudesha brichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata Tush bechata v'nechemata tamira be'ama v'yimaru amen.
Let's rise for the call to prayer, the words of the Baruch Hu. another special reading from our Elul prayer book. Feel free to join me. Holy is twilight, the realm of in-between. And so our sages taught, pray in the moments when light and darkness touch. We are all twilight people, beyond categories and labels. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, widen our wisdom. Let it illumine our way to the God who transcends all boundaries and definitions. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. On page 31, words of love, ahavat olam. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We'll sing Open Up Our Eyes together.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live.
Teach us how to live.
Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivot Malachuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Feel free to be seated as we continue singing the words of the Shema on page 36, the words of the Ahavta. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, mind, and spirit. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha b'derech u'shokbecha uvkumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam hamizuzot beitecha uv'isharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Special reading as we prepare for our Song of Freedom, Mi Kamocha, which you'll find on page 40. It's called Crossing the Sea. Eternal, watch over my small domain of light and shadow, those few people who share my love and all others upon this earth, that sometimes shakes with thunder and reverberates with lightning. Help us to live with fear and conquer rage. Heal the hate that makes us kill and covers the ground with this Red Sea that only you can part, so we may all walk through the wilderness to your realm of peace, where all men and women are one, and sing your blessed name. Words of freedom. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Find our words of shelter, safety, and protection. Hashkivenu on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, Ve'amidenu Shomereinu L'Chaim, Uvroz Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Uvroz Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha,
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel and Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukkot shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. This time, let's rise for our standing prayers, asking God to open our lips for this prayer.
Adonai, sifatai tiftaku fi agita hilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevig Ula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol, Atah Rav LaHoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechachel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman Atalech Chayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Feel free to be seated. And we'll continue with a prayer for the sanctity of Shabbat, that it's set aside for rest and refreshment. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And a prayer called Avodah that asks that God's presence will always remain with us wherever we are. Baruch atah Adonai HaMachazir Shechinato Litzion. And our prayer of hoda'ah, of gratitude for the blessings that we have in our lives if we recognize them. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha u'cha na'el lechodot. And our final blessing in the tefillah is always for shalom, always for peace. We say, grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever. You're the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel and every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel and the world with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hambarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. During the month of Elul, it's customary to read Psalm 27, usually in the morning, but our services here are usually at night on Friday, and we'll be doing that later on in the service. But there's a beautiful verse within Psalm 27 that Allison is going to lead us in. Chava Mirel wrote this arrangement of Achat Sha'alti, which means one thing I ask of God.
Shalati b'vei Adonai, achat shalati utavakesh, achat shalati b'vei Adonai, achat shalati utavakesh, shivti, shivti, nevei Adonai, shivti, shivti, all yemei chayai, shivti, shivti, nevei Adonai, shivti, shivti, all yemei chayai, lechazot b'noam Adonai,
Noam Adonai,
uvachev v'chechalot, lechazot b'noam Adonai,
Noam Adonai,
to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. One thing I ask of you, Adonai, to be with thee all of my life. Achat shalati b'vei Adonai, achat shalati utavakesh.
It's really a beautiful setting for that beautiful song. We'll continue now with words and a prayer of healing that you'll find on page 253 or right on the screens behind us. And at this time, especially, we think of the following individuals with hopes and prayers for their healing: Jerry Bauk, Yonatan Ruben Ben Rivka, Charlie Burke, Norma Bloomberg Van Ness, Babs Brown, Manuel Cruz, Evelyn Edelman, Rob Edelman, Augusto Ferreira, Harry Fleisch, John Friedman, Denise Freifeld, Mitchell Freifeld, Sidel Freifeld, Leah Gottlieb, Jake Garfman, Mary Lou Henninger, Norman Kelton, Arnold Miller, Melissa Miller, William Miller, Priscilla Nathanson, Michael Ranzino, Rabbi Avram Reifer, Miriam Richmond, Stephanie Ross, Dennis Schulman, Jeff Stark, Jen Swan, Marlene Wayne, Sharon Worster, and Sophia Young. If there are any other names to add, feel free to do so.
my father, George Stark.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
This time of year in Jerusalem, brisk business that's underway. In fact, some people have actually called it a phenomenon, because in the weeks leading up to Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, many tens of thousands of Israelis travel to the Holy City. And they're all lining up to participate in the long-standing tradition of observing slichot, which means forgiveness, albeit with a new twist. For the past decade, tour operators have been leading many, many folks on slichot walking tours of different Jerusalem neighborhoods. Some of these tours visit ultra-Orthodox enclaves such as Mea Sharim, which means 100 gates. Now, this is a neighborhood that's so religious that cars can't even enter or exit beyond the police barricades on Shabbat or holidays. While some other of these tours visit what I would call more mixed neighborhoods when it comes to religious practice, such as Nachalot, which is located right next to an awesome indoor-outdoor farmers market called Machane Yehuda, where you can still haggle for food and different goods, and in my opinion, you can get the absolute best piece of rugelach that's ever been created by humankind right at the end at a place called Marzipan. Now, most of the time, I get no money from Marzipan, but my gosh, they're good. Most of the time, these slichot tours begin really late, 9, 10, sometimes 11 o'clock at night, and they usually don't wrap up until well after midnight. The goal of these slichot tours is to introduce non-Orthodox Israelis to the beautiful tradition of reciting and chanting prayers of forgiveness as preparation for the high holidays. In the beginning, slichot tours weren't advertised at all. Instead, they were spread word of mouth, kind of impromptu gatherings that would usually end up by or in a synagogue. Over time, however, word spread about the wonderful melodies called nigunim that don't have words that were heard into the wee hours of the night, which reminded many of these so-called secular Israelis, they're really Jewish, of their parents and their grandparents who sang some of these same nigunim or melodies long, long ago. Nowadays, if you go on Google and look online, you'll literally find dozens of tours taking place every day, not right now, but starting the next night in Israel. They actually begin way back as early as the first day of the Hebrew month of Elul, and they reach their peak on the evening of Slichot, which is tomorrow night, when many tens of thousands of Jews, both religious and secular, gather at the Western Wall in the Old City to offer prayers of forgiveness. It's actually quite a sight. You should know that Jews have been observing Slichot for a very, very long time. Some people believe this custom originated in the days of the Mishnah, which is the first legal text that's written after the Torah, edited by about 1,800 years ago. While other people believe that Slichot can be traced to a rabbi named Amram Gaon, who lived in 9th century in Babylonia, in a place called Sura. Now this makes sense because Rav Amram Gaon also created the first complete prayer book that was for widespread use. They were all hand-copied, of course. One of the earliest examples of Slichot prayers was actually found in China, in the Mogao Caves, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site on the former Silk Road. You can take a look now at this document on the screen. They call it a prayer leaf, and you can see it's obviously handwritten and quite old, and no vowels for those who want to read the Hebrew. Now, Jewish communities differ regarding the timing of when exactly to do these Slichot prayers of forgiveness. Sephardic Jews, who originally hail from Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East, they recite these prayers starting on the second day of the month of Elul, while Ashkenazic Jews, who originally hail from Europe and Russia, begin tomorrow evening, as we will, the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah. In any event, the gatherings of prayer always occur at night. Why? Because God is said to be more forgiving during the early morning hours. Maybe God is a night owl. This time of year, the theme, of course, is preparation and getting spiritually ready for the high holidays. There's a great story about the Baal Shem Tov, who's considered the founder of Hasidic Judaism, that speaks to the reason for this season. As the legend goes, the Baal Shem Tov would hold a contest every single year to see who would be elected to sound the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And because it's such an important honor, the rabbi set the bar quite high. First, anyone who wanted to try out for the Baal Shem Tov had to be a virtuoso on what is a very finicky instrument. Then, those vying for the job also had to master the proper kavanot. These are the spiritual intentions behind each of the shofar sounds. Whether it's the single note of the tekiah, which is likened to a cry, the 3 broken notes of shivarim, reminding us that all of us struggle and have challenges in life, and finally the 9 staccato notes of truah, which captures the spirit of moving forward and hopeful optimism. Only the very best shofar players can make these sounds touch our hearts and reach towards the heavens. Typically, it would take someone months of practice to get ready to enter the contest. But one man truly wanted the job, so he practiced for many, many years. And finally, at long last, he decided, yes, it's time for me to go audition. But when he came before the Baal Shem Tov to produce the proper sounds, he froze. And nothing came out of the shofar at all except for some huffing and puffing. No matter how much he tried, like I said, It's a finicky instrument. So he stood before the Baal Shem Tov in abject silence. He was mortified that all of his years of practice were for naught. And knowing that he failed, his heart shattered into many pieces, and he wept. But upon seeing this, the Baal Shem Tov told him, "You, sir, are hired to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah before our congregation." The guy couldn't believe what he had heard. He even reminded the Baal Shem Tov, I didn't succeed when it really counted. Hearing this, the rabbi just softly quoted the psalmist and said, "Karov Adonai lenishbarei lev," which means God is close to the brokenhearted. This is why the Baal Shem Tov chose him to stand before the congregation, because he understood about life's challenges and disappointments more than many others, and he was open and honest with his emotions. Thankfully, none of us have to practice the shofar day in and day out, and we definitely don't have to audition before the Baal Shem Tov, obviously a challenging critic. Nowadays, there are a lot of other honors that we can bestow during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur: an English reading, an ark opening here or there, perhaps a Hebrew prayer before and after the reading of the Torah. But other than that, all we really need to do is prepare our hearts for the days of awe. The prayers, the poems, the music of the season make of the doorway between the old year and the new. And not only that, come tomorrow evening, we'll experience changes in the sanctuary. The Torah covers, which are usually blue, if I recall, are going to be changed to white mantles, which reflects the aspect of having a fresh and a clean start for the new year. And the music will also change from familiar Shabbat melodies to special high holiday nusach, or melodies, which are quite beautiful. One thing, however, won't change, because starting with Slichot tomorrow night, we'll read those long lists of sins in the confession or vidui section of our prayers. Year after year, we may well ask ourselves, why do I need to read this list of sins, especially when I wasn't involved in the vast majority of them? It's a good question. One reason is that it's easy for us to forget things that we'd rather not remember. In fact, psychologists and therapists have a name for this tendency. It's a defense mechanism called selective forgetting. In the Torah, we find a recurring example of this. The Israelites, for instance, used it on a regular basis throughout their desert journey, from the time they crossed the Red Sea to the time they finally entered Israel. They'd say things like, "Moses, back in Egypt, we had great watermelons and leeks. Now all we have is this manna. And while you might call it a miracle food, it tastes like coriander seed to me, which is a little bit sweet, but is also quite earthy and somewhat tart." So not the best. Over and over, time and again, the Israelites fetched and complained to Moses, while forgetting the harsh realities of working from dawn to dusk, schlepping huge blocks of stone to stroke Pharaoh's ego and build monuments for him. All things considered, it's pretty reasonable to have just one annual reminder that we're not perfect, and that sometimes we do miss the mark with our spouses, our friends, our coworkers, and our neighbors. Every year, we offer prayers of forgiveness as a community because our actions affect other people, many times in ways that are evident to us, but sometimes in ways that we don't even know about. And looking inward gives us another chance to get things right and to do better in the new year. So let's enter Slichot and consider our actions. Let's reflect on who we are and who we want to be. And for those we've hurt, even if it's inadvertently, we should ask for forgiveness. It's okay to say, I'm sorry. I wasn't my best self in that moment. And let's also remember that God will help lift us up, support us, and help us as we go on our new course for the future. In just 9 days, if my calendar's correct, the Jewish New Year 5783 will be upon us. May all of us be ready to hear the sound of the shofar, and may our path of return lead us to wholeness and to peace. Shabbat Shalom. We will continue now with the Aleinu, the adoration found on the bottom of 282. Please rise as the ark is open.
Aleinu Shabbat la'adon hakol, la'tei gedula li'otzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot hadama, shelo sam kelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Free to be seated. We'll now turn to words of memory and remembrance, and also a prayer of praise, Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, found on 294. As we think of families in the period of Shloshim, as we remember Ira Gantz, friend of Marty Satinoff, John Green, friend of Tom and Dorsey Rose, Eddie Deerfield, member of our congregation, Amy Eisler, friend of Lynn Rosenthal, John Soller, friend of Ed Marks, and Queen Elizabeth II as well. For yard sites, we take some time to honor the memories of those who died during this season and years past. On the Shabbat, we especially remember Sylvia Brandeis, Phyllis Cohen, Anita Cohen, Neil DeRemer, Vera Fish, Arthur Gladstone, Gilbert Glenn, Reba Gorlick, David Graff, Parker Greenberg, King Haley, Paula Hickey, Helen Hills, Hyman Katz, Harold Lipschultz, Sarah Lipton, Max Lowe, Bernard Nassiter, Rose Plevin, Jean Resnick, Samuel Rosen, Ruth Sabgier, Ethel Sacker, Marcia Silver, Aaron Skalka, Ruth Snell, Audrey Snyder, Howard Snyder, Joseph Stremilio, and Robert Woolman. Are there any other names to add for Yahrzeit at this time? We say Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of all of these good people continue to be a lasting blessing in their loved ones' lives as we rise together to offer the words of Kaddish praise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Bialma divrach utevi amlich malchute. V'chayechon u'byomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael. V'agalav izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lamei al-maya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shemei dekudusha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam haraba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. O say shalom b'mromav huya shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and the world, as we say, amen.
V'imiru, 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 amen. V'imiru, 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 amen.
Feel free to be seated. As I alluded to before, we will be reading a larger selection from Psalm 27, which you'll find on the screens before you. God is my light and my refuge secure. Whom shall I fear? God is the stronghold of my life. Of whom should I be afraid? Just one thing I have asked of God, only this do I seek, to dwell in God's house all the days of my life, to behold divine sweetness and beauty, and to gaze in delight at God's temple.
Tekiah.
Like I said, sometimes you just don't know what's going to come out of it. Be a low one, a medium one, and that was a high one, but it did the trick. We are going to continue with the Shabbat Kiddush. You'll find that on the screens before you and also on page 5 in Mishkan Tefillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahav uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit Ihu yom tefillah l'mikra'e kodesh zemer l'siyat Mitzrayim ki banu Pleasure to call forward our temple president, Ed Marks. He'll be sharing some Shabbat announcements.
Good evening. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Our thanks to the Rabbi, of course, and to Allison and Joy for leading us in this service. Thanks as well to our technical crew, Bruce Lowett and Saul Tabe. Our Sukkot program and service for forgiveness will take place tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock. We hope to see you all here and you at home too. You can come on in. We'll watch a 17-minute film called Braided Prayer about a musical group with a Christian, a Muslim, and a Jew, followed by the brief discussion and then the service. High Holy Day Cemetery visits will take place this Sunday, noon at Sylvan Abbey and 1 p.m. at Curlew Hills. Also on Sunday, Sisterhood is going to host a shofar factory. RSVPs are required so that they can bring in enough shofars. On Sunday evening, the Tampa Bay Jewish Film Festival will feature films at AMC Woodland. If you want to stay at home, the Ken Burns documentary on the Holocaust and the U.S. will begin at 8 o'clock. It's 3 nights in a row, about 2.25 hours each of those nights. We've seen part of it. It's stunning. I've heard nothing but good things about it. An adult Hebrew class focusing on reading liturgy will begin on September 20th. Paula Rosoff, our vice president, will be leading it. We need a minimum of 5 students for that class to go forward. Jewish Family and Children's Service Fall Food Drive continues through September. Info and links about these events can be found in the weekly happenings page, the email. And for those of you who are here, we invite you to join us for an Oneg Shabbat immediately after the service. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. And just a note for those who will be here for the Slichot service tomorrow night, the sister is going to be hosting a nice Oneg following the service. I don't know if that's going to weigh you in one direction or the other. But good food is good food, even if it's not a marzipan rugelach. So our closing song's going to be Oseh Shalom. You can see it right on those screens there, our prayer of peace.
Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We'll conclude with our prayer for health and well-being. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al shmirat hanefesh, for the mitzvah and sacred obligation to protect our lives and the lives of those around us. Shabbat shalom, one and all. Hopefully I'll see some of you on Saturday night. And one final announcement: next Friday, Rabbi Gary Klein will be here leading services for you.
Oh, right. Manage.